Hi, I'm Sam Vokes at Wycombe Wanderers, and you're listening to Wycombe Sound.
The Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. In the next hour, we'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth as he reflects on 10 years in charge at the club. We'll also look ahead to the trip to Sheffield Wednesday. We'll look back on the defeats against Derby in the league, and also, of course, Stevenage and the Papa John's Trophy. We'll give you our match debrief with Phil. Thanks to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, we'll catch up with Julian Lailey, who was a midfielder at the club in the late 60s, early 70s. We'll bring you some news from Wycombe Wanderers Women, some historic news, and also reflect on how the under-18s are doing as they enter a new division. We'll catch up with Christian Price, who's their boss. I think that's it. There might be other stuff too. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be other stuff too. We caught up with Phil a little earlier on, though, at the club. Phil Catchpole, I'm sure you don't need introducing us to who he is. The match commentator, also head of audio and broadcast, and host of the fantastic Ringing the Blues podcast. We spoke to him a little earlier on this afternoon. It was actually in the grounds of Adams Park. Outside is what I'm trying to say, very badly. And if you're of a nervous disposition, I should suggest that you listen out for the infamous bird scarer, in case it puts in an appearance or two, but or maybe more. You've been warned. But first, Phil talks us through the last 7 days.
Yeah, a great stadium to go to, a really fiery game as well, and a brilliant start. That first sort of 26, 27 minutes looked fantastic for Wycombe Wanderers. 1-0 up, Anis Vermette doing the magic again with his 5th goal of the season. But Derby looked all over the place in that initial start to that game. And then all of a sudden they had a shot on target, I think on 26 minutes, and it clicked them into gear. And Wycombe really had to defend quite a lot in the last 20 minutes or so of that first half, and defended really, really well. But then the second half really just continued in the same pattern, and Derby were really kind of clicking up front. Their fans were saying, there we go. The bird scare again. The Derby fans, twice. And the Derby fans were saying, third time's a charm. The Derby fans were saying it's the, wow, 4 times. The Derby fans are saying, finally, that's the first time they've managed to do that this season. And I think Wycombe were a bit unlucky in that respect. Although they put the low block in, but with Derby, with Conor Hourihane on the pitch, he's got a fantastic record of scoring goals from outside the penalty area. And it was one of those long-range shots that brought them level. And when you look back on the replay of the second goal, it was an unlucky deflection, although Wycombe were incredibly deep. The ball ricocheted off Taff was on his hip and fell to Hourihane once more in the box. He made no mistake. So, yeah, Wycombe were hanging on. Max Strick made some great saves in there as well. But I guess over the 90 minutes and the pattern of play, you can't begrudge Derby the win. On another day, maybe Wycombe come away with a point. And it's going to be another tough trip to Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday. But, I mean, then after the Derby game, obviously the Stevenage Papa John's game and a 3-0 defeat on what was a pretty miserable evening in terms of covering the game because, the young players out there with a few senior players dotted around as well. It was a disjointed performance. Wycombe was second best pretty much all over the pitch. And Stevenage, I think, would deserve the win. And we spoke about the excitement before the game, saying, wouldn't it be great if these young players could make a claim for the first team on Saturday? And unfortunately, Gareth Ainsworth didn't have many decisions to make after the Papa John's game in midweek. And here's what he had to say after the game.
Not like us, we got out physical today. We didn't win enough headers. A mixture of a couple of the first team boys who've been in and around it, and Volksy started, and Darryl has played a lot, JJ in there. Mixed with some of the development boys, and I thought that there was lessons learned tonight that don't be down, don't be gutted that we lost. I want it to hurt, and I want to know why it hurt, because we didn't win enough headers, we didn't win in our tackles. They stepped on us and ran harder than us. It looked like they were quicker at times and more physical, and I think to have careers in the game, you've got to learn this, you've got to learn it quick, and that's what these games are about. Great for these development boys, to come and see that, because these are League 2 players. A lot of them have been in League 1, a couple in the Championship, and they know what it's about to have a career in the game. You can earn good money in football and have good careers in the game, but you've got to do the basics. Winning headers is so important, out physical. At this level, you can't not win your headers. You can't not be strong enough and not track your runners and things like that. And I think we learned a few lessons tonight, which is really important. Gutted we lost because I want to win every game, but with all the development squad coming through now, some lessons were learned, and I think that we'll be positive in the long run for that. Sully Kaikai getting his first start, and we're trying to get Sully up to speed as quick as we can. Sam Vokes getting more minutes, big positive, and JJ obviously is brilliant to see him playing the way he did. But I thought it was positive. Ali made a good impact when he came on, but positives were few and far between tonight, and I think we've got to look at that one and think, right, what does it take to be a footballer? What do I need to do to have a career? And I think we'll be watching that to show the boys exactly what it takes.
Defensively, was it the individual errors that cost, or the fact that it's a team that don't have the luxury of playing with each other too often at all? And maybe did that contribute as well? Or?
Listen, you can point at individual things. You could put the goal on and pick all the bones out of the goal, but it felt like they were more powerful than us tonight, at times, and that's not good. That's not right, and I think you've got to make sure you're up to speed to play in the Football League if that's what you want to do. And I think one or two would probably have their eyes open tonight and thinking, right, I know what I need to do now, and that's it's physical, it's committed, and these League Two teams, they're going to put it on you and step on you. We know that. So fair play to Stevenage. They've had a real good go at us. They're a strong side. I think they'll be up and there around it at the end of the season, and I think that showed why tonight. They deserve the win.
Peterborough, as we're speaking, are beating Tottenham Hotspur under 21s. So it does mean that the final group game is essentially a knockout one. Win it, and Wycombe can go through.
I want to win it. I want to go through. I know Rob and Pete and Missy will want to go through as well. They want us to win all the games. There's money on this. There's more competitive games week in, week out if you do it right. And I think that we've got to make sure that we're focused on that when it comes round. But my only focus now is the next 4 or 5 games, which are big games in this league. And I think you look at the fixtures coming up. We've got to be on it. We've got to be really on it. We've got to be performing at our best away at Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday, and then we've got to make sure that the upcoming games we're solid. We can hurt teams. We want a good platform at least, so when all my injured players do come back and suspended players, we can make an impact in this league. That's what we want to do. There's big rewards if you can get in that championship, and that's why teams are spending so much money to get there. We can't match that top money in the top level, but the unbuyables that we match sometimes are really important, and everyone knows what I'm talking about there. We've got to make sure that the things you can't buy, we bring to the table week in, week out, and we'll perform in this league this season.
Really great to hear from him, saying obviously that he hopes the players learn from it and take something from that experience, and him saying that he hopes that it hurts. And I guess to fans as well, it might come across that that they didn't seem to want to get anything from the game.
I think it's really difficult. I mean, these players are development players for a reason. They're here to develop and learn. And let's not forget this development squad has produced Anish Fermetti and Chris Farino. And Chris, at stages in League One last season and at times this season, has looked a great defender, and will be a great defender who's going to have a glittering career without a doubt. So it's all part of the learning curve. I remember Chris playing in the Papa John's last season in a 5-0 defeat at home to Burton Albion, where Aaron Holloway scored a hat-trick. And these nights, these experiences are what makes the players. It's the ones that learn from these things and kick on and use it to their advantage later down the line. They're the ones who will really reap the rewards as a footballer, and hopefully do it in the quarter shirts further down the line. But yeah, it's a stiff learning curve, and they're doing it under the sharp light of competitive football with fans watching. And again, I think that's what makes the competitive environment all the more better for these players to learn in. And yeah, hopefully in a year's time, we'll be talking about players who played in that game in a really positive light in the first team, like we are with Chris and like we have done with Anis in the past.
And great to see some of the first team players getting the game time that they need, which will be good, taking them into the upcoming games.
Absolutely. I thought Dale Horgan, Joe Jacobson and Sam Vokes, it's good to have them out there on the pitch. Sam Vokes, 45 minutes to get more minutes into his legs on the way back from injury, and hopefully that will make him that much more match sharp now when we go into that tough game at Hillsborough on Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday. It's just really nice to see Wycombe able to use the competition in the way that it was designed for. I think it's to test younger players, but also to blend in the experienced players who need that game time too.
And as you say, a really great opportunity on Saturday to hopefully bounce back from that defeat up at Derby and take positives from that, and a fantastic kind of place and club to go up against as well.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, what a game this is. Hillsborough is a brilliant stadium. There's going to be well over 20,000 there on Saturday. They're doing well. They haven't quite clicked into gear themselves. Chatting to one of their podcasts in the week, they were sort of saying, we haven't really got going yet. They're fourth in the table, 19 points, I think it is already, or perhaps more than that. And that's quite fearful when you think, they haven't quite clicked into gear yet. Michael Smith, the striker's been injured. He's scored 2 in 2 starts. He'll be a real danger. And let's not forget who's in goal, David Stockdale as well. And he's going to want to make sure Wycombe have got a shutout as well, because he's missed a clean sheet. He's already got 5 clean sheets up there already. And what a good signing he's doing for them. Michael Hekway at centre-back, Michael Smith we've just mentioned, Barry Bannon in the midfield. The spine of the team's really long. But here's a positive stat that I learnt this week. Every time they've conceded a goal, they haven't won a game this season. So if Wycombe can score, if Anis Vermetti, for example, can do a bit of magic and stick one past his old mate Stocko, then the stats look good for us. Well, hopefully that will come true.
It's a very good stat. I like that. We can take that into the game, and also, of course, fantastic that I think fans don't they're always like half empty or half full, but I think things don't look too bad at the moment. Only 3 points off the playoffs currently.
Well, this is it with this stage of the season. Normally, after 10 games, you kind of know where everyone's at in the table. It's an incredibly tight table. It's not like last season. It's not a split division yet. Things may happen. Clubs may have bad and good runs, and it may become divided later down the line. But this is a very open division, and I would say, a bit like last season, there's probably around the 12-team mark who think that they've probably got a really good opportunity to get in the top 6 come the end of the season. And Wycombe will count themselves very much in that shake-up. And they need to get over these injury issues, get a consistent team out there, and hopefully, put a good run of form together and get themselves in the shake-up, because they've still got the reputation of last year. Chatting to Sheffield Wednesday fans, they're a little fearful of the game on Saturday at Hillsborough because of what happened last year. A 2-2 draw at their place, a 1-0 win to Wycombe at Adams Park in April. So there is still the fear factor around Wycombe Wanderers, and hopefully if the form can pick up and teams can continue to fear Wycombe based on this season's results.
And a really nice bit of history as well, being the 135th anniversary since the first game.
Yeah, fantastic, isn't it? And what a story that's been. The vast majority of the history of the club has been in non-league and amateur football. And to think that we're now going to Sheffield Wednesday on a level footing at Hillsborough is just phenomenal. Those guys in the Chair Factory all that time ago who started the team, I think it was the old steam engine pub they did it in up near London Road all that time ago. If you'd have told those boys then what would be happening today, 135 years later, they'd probably be astounded. But what a story. And hopefully the club can reach even higher heights.
Absolutely. And really nice, obviously, the milestone for the manager as well. 10 years. I think only one manager in the EFL has been at a club longer. That's the Harrogate Town manager, isn't it? And a great achievement. And as we'll hear from him, so great that, both club and he himself have sort of formed this great partnership.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. And it's been brilliant to see Gareth getting a lot of media attention today up at the training ground. We've had Sky, TalkSport, the EFL have been down as well. And there's going to be a lot of content going around this 10 years because it is a really sort of newsworthy thing to happen, because you've only got to look at what's going on in and around the Premier League, Championship, and even League One today. Liam Rossini has been relieved of his duties as interim manager at Derby, and they've got Paul Warning from Championship Rotherham. So it just shows you that there is no real loyalty in management in both ways. And I understand that it's a cutthroat business. So to have a manager at one club for 10 years is phenomenal, and to reach that milestone at Wycombe, and what a job he's done, what a legacy he's left. It's been a lovely day to reflect on where we've come. We've talked about the first game at Dagenham back in end of September 2012 to where we are today, and it's a million miles away in every respect. And there's been some dark times, there's been some incredible highs as well, And there's been some great laughs on the journey as well, and some amazing, memorable games along the way. And it's been a fantastic legacy, and long may it continue.
I mean, there's so much that stands out, isn't there? You know, as you say, the national media like to focus on his sort of rock star image and just how little Wycombe have come up to the Championship and things like that. But I think something that really also stands out is the culture that he's built, and you know, you have to have time to be able to do that at a club, and that's something that you've seen obviously at close quarters as well.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to see that, because we were chatting to Alfie Mawson earlier to find out how he's getting on now since he's re-signed for the club, and then we started talking about Gareth Ainsworth, because you know, I said when the phone went and they talked about him coming back, you know, he didn't think twice about it, because he absolutely loved his first spell here. And he said, look, Gareth Ainsworth is a huge reason, and Richard Dobson and the other coaches as well. He says Gareth Ainsworth and the culture he's created amongst his coaching staff and the players and all of the staff was a huge, huge draw for him. And this is a guy that's played in the Premier League. To hear him talking about Gareth in those tones was really nice to hear. And it was a really good sort of insight into why so many players come back to this club. And the players that do come as well for the first time, who are still here, they're coming on the fact that it's a small world football, and they'll know what goes on here at Wycombe, and it's attractive for players. And the man management of him as well, I think, the way he treats his players, they can tell how much they respect him. And it's been great to see that culture at close hand. And Dobbo made a really good point earlier as well, is that takes time to sort of engender around the club. And that's the time they've been given. And not everyone gets that time. And it's been brilliant that Wycombe and Gareth have got this partnership now that's going well into its 10th year.
And so many fans grateful to have him and appreciative of you know where he's got the club too as well. And he has obviously a fantastic relationship with the supporters as well.
Yeah, I've often said that I think Gareth is one of the few managers I've ever spoken to in football that really kind of understands what it means to be a fan, to be on the terrace, to be in the stands. Because he did that initially with his dad with Blackburn. There was a great flirt with him the other week when Blackburn were away at Reading, and he's in the away end with his son because Wycombe didn't have a game that night. And he's there as a fan. And I think it's important that he's been able to keep that tie, because you know it's the fans that really are the heartbeat of all of football. They're the ones who pay the money to come through the turnstile. Without the fans, there wouldn't be a game. We know what it's like without them now because of the COVID crisis. And I think Gareth really appreciates the fans. And you know, let's not beat around the bush here as well. He's had some stick off those fans as well down the years, especially at the start. But he understands it, I think. And I think he realises that he's got a responsibility as the manager, the leader of the club. But he took over at a time when it was quite fractious here, and he brought the whole club together, and the fans were included in that. So it is good to see that his relationship with the fans is stronger than ever.
And he has a real impact on the community as well. Patron of One Can Trust. He sings in the high street when required, or maybe even not even when required. He might just happily do that anyway. He's got his name on a bus. You know, it's just he gets pictures taken with fans at 4 a.m. in fast food takeaways. It's a real kind of like fans' favourite.
Yeah, you know, I think a cult hero at every club he's been at, and Wycombe as well is, you know, he's more than a cult hero. He's a legend. But like you say, people wouldn't do those things, naming buses and all the other bits. That wouldn't happen if he wasn't a great guy as well. And I think it just speaks volumes for him, the love for him in the community. And he knows, again, where this football club is at in the community, the importance of football clubs in the community. And he leads one, and he leads it fantastically.
Well, hopefully he'll be here for another 10 years as well.
Hopefully, yeah, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? I mean, his hair will still be the same colour, mind you.
Pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, Colin.
More from Phil next week, and of course he'll bring us full match commentary on Saturday from Hillsborough as well. And a reminder, you can hear his chat with Gareth and others in full on Wanderers TV.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, some exciting news around Wycombe Wanderers Women, and also Adams Park, it was announced this week, playing host once again to Wycombe Homeless Connection's big sleep out on Saturday the 26th of November, raising urgently needed funds for the homeless across South Bucks. Heather Stanley from the charity will be joining us on mid-mornings tomorrow. If you're listening to the podcast version, that's mid-mornings on the 23rd of September. It was a Friday. Meantime, though, thanks to Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association, we'll catch up with another former star who was in the midfield some 50 years ago for Wanderers at Lokes Park, but his affiliation with Wycombe Wanderers came quite a bit before that. Let's catch up now with the thoughts and memories of Julian Lailey.
Wycombe's in my blood, as it were. I've always been Wycombe because I was born, about, 200 yards from Lokes Park, as was. I was born in Richardson Street, and I went to school. School then was in the town. I think it's called John Hampton School now. It was the Wycombe Technical High School then, opposite the Rye. I did live in Marlow. So, yes, I've always been a Wycombite, if you like.
And does that make it extra special, playing for your hometown club?
Oh, yeah. My early memories was I was taken there with my uncle, who, again, lived not far away from Richardson Street, within, shouting distance of Lokes Park. And he and his other brother, every home match, I'm talking about me being about 9, 10, went to Lokes Park for every home match. I remember seeing Wycombe play a Nigerian side, I think it was, who came over, one of the early African teams. Most of them played without boots, in bare feet. I remember going up to Highbury to watch Wycombe play Walthamstow Avenue in the FA Amateur Cup semi-final, the old Highbury. They beat Walthamstow 4-2, and then they went on to play Bishop Auckland at Wembley, where unfortunately they lost 3-1. I didn't go to Wembley. I couldn't afford the ticket, there was a train ride then. So I've always been associated with Wycombe. I played my football subsequent to Wycombe, longer years with Cheltenham Town, because I went to Cheltenham to teach, and I spent longer there. But no, Wycombe's always been my club, always in my heart, and it ever will be. Yeah, I'm a Wycombe boy, born and bred.
And what were they like to watch in the early days?
Oh, good. They've always had a decent team. At their level, they've always been challenging. In the early days, I can remember, the real hero I saw and remember them very, very well. You had Lem Worley, who's always been my idol, probably the best player I've ever played with then, because I caught him. Started playing for Wycombe when he was in his twilight, and he was still sort of fantastic player. Always played, the managers always played Len on the top of the slope. So at half time, he'd switch wings just to play on the top of the slope. But he was the Stanley Matthews of his day, wasn't he?
No, absolutely. And of course, being a midfielder yourself, you must have been, obviously quite close to him in many ways. Yeah.
I was generally on the other side. I was always a left footer, and like all left footers, I didn't have much of a right foot. So I was often down the bottom end. He played on the right wing, except when we changed over at half time. So then I played with him. But a fantastic footballer. But there were others, weren't there? Then I can almost remember the team that played in the cup final. Sirrett in goal. Paul Bates. Paul Bates was a good centre forward. Typical sort of Bobby Smith of Spurs in his day. Cliff Trott, they were the people I admired and watched as a boy.
And then obviously to get the chance to play for the club, tell us a bit about how that came about.
Well, it was inevitable really. I started. My parents moved from Wycombe. They had a spell up at Totteridge, but then they moved to Marlow. They're Marlow people, and moved to Marlow. So I played for Marlow, but I can remember playing. I don't know how this came about actually. Wycombe youth played Arsenal youth in a sort of, I suppose it was a trial match. I'd been 15 and I was asked to sort of guest for the Wycombe team, so that introduced me there. But I played at Lokes Park. I played for my school team, Wycombe Tech, as I say now, John Hampton. We played cup finals. Remember playing against Hatters Lane? Does Hatters Lane still exist?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. It's called Highcrest now, but yes. Right,
okay. Also I played youth team, although I lived in Marlow then for Terriers. Youth side in the Wycombe League, they had a good side, tended to win everything. Up at Hazelmere, that was a good experience. So I've always been around Wycombe. I think it's inevitable that if I ever ever got to that standard, that's where I'd end up.
And that must have been fantastic when you kind of arrived, if you like, and started playing with some of these great names of that time.
Yeah, and they did have a good team. When I started to start playing with them, they had a good team. Always had a good team, as I say. The Isthmian League, they were always challenging a bit. But I remember John Maskell, probably the best amateur goalkeeper I ever played with. John Maskell, I think he's still around, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you had some brilliant players. And Tony Horsman, of course, the goal scorer extraordinary. He was the Jimmy Greaves of his day. Tony would just be there. He'd just float around the penalty area. He wouldn't work back much. He didn't need to. You knew if he had the ball at his feet anywhere within striking distance, it was a good chance he'd end up in the back of the net. Great goal scorer.
It must have been such an interesting period because, when you arrived at the club, there were, as you say, people like Len Worthy who were coming towards the end of their career, and then up-and-coming youngsters like Viv Busby and Vince Faulkner as well.
That's right, yeah. They were both there. Paul Birdseye, yeah, the youngsters. But plenty of you. Brian Lee was the manager. Well, I say I'd just joined before Brian came. I remember playing for Wycombe. Brian Lee had been appointed. We didn't know at the time, but he was manager of Telford. And they came to play us in a pre-season friendly. Or was it to the back end of the season? I don't know, it was a friendly anyway. None of us knew that Brian had been appointed then, but we played there, and Brian then started in the new season. I remember Brian really is the only manager I had when I was there, and he gathered together a strong team. I mean, he had some amateur internationals there, but people like Ian Rundle as well, great fullback, Jeff Anthony, Keith Searle, John Delaney, great captain. Oh gosh, I go through. Larry Pritchard, Peter Sotheby. Yeah, you mentioned Peter Sotheby. We both played for Oxford University, and we both played in the Blues team when we were at Wycombe. And I remember Peter coming. And he was a player. He went on to Blackpool, didn't he, as a pro? And I think he ended up a long time as youth team coach at Spurs. We had a reunion, and the Oxford University Blues team. About 10 years ago or something. At that time, he was in charge of the Spurs youth team, I think. So he made a good career in football. Very, very good player. Very mobile. Him and John Delaney, he was the heart of the defence, tall, strong, no nonsense centre half. And then he had Peter sort of sweeping round behind him, good on the ball, mobile. They made a very good combination in the centre of the defence. Yeah, we had a good team. But I think Wycombe, they've always, in the amateur world, certainly, they always more than held their own. I remember disappointment, I suppose. I had 3 years, only 3 years, and it seems, I played for them all my life. But those 3 years were great years for me. I can remember probably the biggest disappointment of all was when we had a crowd of nearly 10,000 for the quarter-final of the FA Amateur Cup. We were favourites because we were playing at home. We had some amateur international players. We were playing at St Albans City, and we'd beaten them, in the league. We were higher than they in the league, and but come the day, great crowd. I think the occasion probably got too much for us. We lost 2-0, and they played us off the park. I think looking back, I had an awful game. I think, mentally, we probably thought we'd won it before we stepped on the park, which is a lesson for everyone. We were probably always in the top three. We were, I can remember my last season, we were about 10 points ahead of Enfield, but Enfield had 6 games to go. They had a backlog for some reason. I can't remember. Perhaps they had a good cup run or whatever. We were way ahead in the league, but they won all their remaining matches and dipped us probably by 1 point, I think. So that was disappointing too. So yeah, I missed out on the Isthmian League.
So what would you say were some of your highlights during your time at the club?
I enjoyed every moment of every game there. I suppose I can't remember us losing at Lokes Park over my 3 years. We might have done. We lost in the old cup match, but I can't remember us losing at Lokes Park in a league match over that time. We played good football. Brian Lee was an excellent manager, and we knocked the ball around. There wasn't a case of well, let's get it upfield as quickly as possible, hoof it up, and let's see what the forwards can do. It's good constructive football. A lot of good ball-playing football. I think Brian went for that sort of player. So I hope you'd have to ask others. But I think we played attractive football. We certainly seemed to, have some big scores. The Isthmian League was in those days. The top half a dozen clubs were really good. That's where probably the amateur internationals were drawn from. The bottom half wasn't strong. I suppose it's typical of most leagues. And so we had some sort of big wins, I suppose, against those, but some great wins. One of the, I suppose I would recall going to Enfield. Enfield they were our big rivals. As I say, they picked us for the league in my last year by a point by winning their backlog of matches. But we went to, I think it was that year, we went to Enfield and really just walked right over them. We won 4-0. I can remember, I think John Delaney might have even got, the centre half, might have got 2 coming up from corners. But, you do occasionally get those games where everything clicks and everyone clicks. And they were never in the game. And the 4-0 was flattering to them, I think. The only game they lost at home that year. So.
And you got to represent England as well. That must have been fantastic.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. Yes, one of those was Wycombe. The reason I left Wycombe and then played a few international matches at Cheltenham Town was simply because I got my first teaching post there. And so that took me away from Wycombe. I did commute for a little while from Cheltenham to Wycombe, but in the end, the distance was too much. And so I joined Cheltenham Town, who were, semi-professional Southern League team. I never, although they wanted me to, I never changed my amateur status, partly because I didn't want a contract, because that can be very tiring. But I was a teacher, and I wanted to carry on playing international football for England, which I continued to do with Cheltenham. But it was at Wycombe really that I started when I got my first cap, and I go back to what I said at the start. Although I played for other clubs, and I played more times for Cheltenham Town than I did for Wycombe, those 3 years at Wycombe were absolute highlight. I probably played my best football then, to I was early 20s. I never really left Wycombe, if you see what I mean.
No, definitely. And speaking to other players as well, ex-players, something that really comes across is how well you all got on as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't remember any arguments at all amongst us, or anyone being ostracised or whatever. Training was always fun. Brian Lee always made it fun. He varied the routines we had for training. Yeah, the camaraderie was really good. The team always got on very, very well. We had team meetings, no one was, I suppose, above anyone else, so everyone sort of treated equally. I think, give credit to Brian Lee. He was my manager for all those years that I was there, and he set the tone, and Brian was a manager. He didn't rant and rave or show any favouritism or whatever. We all felt, I'm sure, equals in that team, and he made it so. The great thing with football and a lot of team games is shared experience. If you win and win well and people play well, you're euphoric, and you're happy. If it goes the other way and, have a lousy match and lose, play badly, you're all down in the ups, but you're all together. And it's that shared experience, I think, that makes all so special. But also, of course, I think in life, it gave us the highs and the lows, and if you can, always look forward to Saturday because of the uncertainty. You never know whether you're going to win or lose. You don't know whether you're going to play well or not. But when you do, and others, there's nothing like football when you all play well together, and it's a good match, and you share that joy on the coach going back home if it's an away match, or in the changing room afterwards. Yeah, it's a fantastic experience.
And as you say, really special to say you've played for your hometown club as well.
Oh yeah. That's it's the one that I always made. I always look at Wycombe's results first before I look at anyone else's. I still follow football, but obviously from the armchair. I haven't seen them. I mean, that may seem odd, because they do come up here. I live about 4 or 5 miles from Wycombe. I live in Lancaster, and I'm still involved with sport, and my sport also sort of coincides. I do a lot of trail running and orienteering. I really took up when football, got beyond me. Then I started orienteering as sort of. Not many people know about orienteering, but it's running with a map, compass, and so on. And I represented England. I've represented England with orienteering. The thing with football is, but when you can't play at the level you used to play at, then you do other things. And with orienteering, the competition is against your peers, because you do a course basically with people within your age range. And so I've kept on doing that, and trail running as well. I do, being near the lakes here, which I am. I'm often in the lakes running there, and that means I don't go and see live football matches. The weekends is when the races are on, so I don't do much watching live. I watch a lot of football on TV. That's it.
Former Wycombe Wanderers midfielder Julian Lailey speaking to us here at Wycombe Sound.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on this week's edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we'll hear from manager Gareth Ainsworth reflecting on his 10 years in charge at the club. First day, very exciting news for Wycombe Wanderers Women. It's been announced this afternoon they'll be playing their first ever competitive fixture at Adams Park when they take on Sport London E Benfica ladies in the second qualifying round of the Vitality Women's FA Cup, and that tie is being played at 2 o'clock on Sunday the 2nd of October. We'll be building up to that, of course, here on the Wycombe Wanderers Show. We'll be finding out a little more about that fixture as well as we get a bit closer to kick-off as well. But first, the under-18s have a new league to get involved with this season, and Christian Price is their manager.
We've obviously entered into the JPL league. It's a really challenging league. There's different kind of perception or expectation on the girls this year. So we're all about kind of hanging in the fight and competing, but perhaps maybe not necessarily winning our matches, but obviously be assured we'll be going out there and giving it our best shot and looking to kind of take all 3 points on match day. But the competition is much greater. Lots of challenges there. But yeah, it's really exciting. So Ipswich Town this weekend, so in the Cup. So we're really looking forward to it. Can't wait.
I was going to say, how much of a step up will it be for the players?
It's a massive step. Carl, head coach Carl, kind of warned us of such. But the girls have been kind of playing at community club level for a long time and competing and doing really well, and it was just absolutely necessary for us to embark on this next journey really, and it was right for those girls as well. Maybe they haven't had the opportunities at academies and what have you, but it's right up there. So it's a challenge for both the players and the coaching staff really. But yeah, we played last week, had a 2-2 draw there, a game that we were winning. Last kick of the game they got a penalty, which was really galling, but the girls did really, really well. So from a coaching perspective, it was probably the most improved performance I've ever witnessed from our bunch of girls, and probably the best team performance I've ever kind of witnessed as a coach myself over the 8 years that I've been with the majority of these players. So yeah, we're making some really, really good strides at the moment, and it's going really well. But yeah, definitely a step up. But it's something that we're taking on board and relishing. So yeah, looking forward to more to come.
Must be so pleasing for you as well. Had such a successful season last season as well, and just watching the side develop.
Yeah, again, we had lots of successful seasons over the years, and I'll be honest with you, you play the matches sometimes, and you kind of do very well, and you compete right throughout the whole season. And come the end of the season, it becomes almost like a relief rather than elation, where it's the expectation is the girls to go out and win, and they've been doing that week in, week out. And so this is another level now, and I'm sure one that we can fully compete in. So yeah, really, really exciting. But yeah, it's great being a part of these girls and being involved so heavily with their development and watching them develop over the years as kind of as players, but as also as people, as individuals, and the spirit that we're showing this season is great. We've probably half the squad that we have has come to us as new this year. And there's a nice sense of excitement now where the girls are getting to know each other, and that's what this is all about. It's all about those bonds and those girls kind of taking those bonds forward into match day, and and putting together and putting on a fantastic team performance. And that was a reflection of what happened last weekend, and we're looking to kind of build on that week on week. So it's amazing.
And it must be such a motivator as well for the girls to have as a reward the opportunity to progress to the first team.
Yeah, again, that's the whole point of coming over here. So we came over a couple of years back, so we had that opportunity for the girls that maybe weren't being stretched enough on a Saturday to have the opportunity of really kind of coming up against very, very experienced footballers, which will in turn bring on their footballing skill and profile and knowledge and everything else. So it's great having that opportunity there to fall back into that as well, and that will obviously help Carl's promotion push there for the girls this year, and they've obviously didn't play at the weekend, but they've started really well. They won their first game of the season, so hopefully it's first of many, and we can all pull it forward all in the right direction and get those guys where they want to be for next season too. So yeah, it's a fantastic setup there. The coaches are working really hard, continuously hard on WhatsApp chats and all of that kind of stuff, just to kind of coordinate training sessions. But yeah, everything's well planned for. Lots of time and investment, our own time and investment goes into this, and it's hugely rewarding. So yeah, great to be part of.
And it feels like a really exciting time at the club as well, as we've mentioned with the first team and Carl coming in and the changes that he's brought in, obviously the reserve team and the under-18s as well, a really sort of successful unit, if you like.
Yeah, and again, that's what it's all about, right? So it's all about us kind of working together as a collective and putting squads out that is a benefit to all of the sides. And it isn't just about Carl's side; it's Jamie's team in the reserves as well. And it's just really important that we kind of have that set up right. And as coaches, we have to lead by example, and we have to make sure that process and that foundation is in place. And if we can get that right, then we're halfway there, really. But we're under no illusions. We've still got lots of work to do. We've still got to kind of pull all three squads, which are pretty much a new bunch of girls, together. But yeah, match days and training nights twice weekly. It's a really good vibe. It's great to be part of, and it's just like a celebration of women's footy, really. And yeah, again, lovely being involved in it, really, and playing hopefully what is a big part in that too. So yeah, love it.
And as a coach, have you noticed a real upsurge in interest, obviously since what England have done at the Euros as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think that the under-18s, certainly by them going into the JPL, I think that's definitely created some interest there. I also think certainly from an investment perspective, that's been absolutely key. So I think there's a lot of people now that probably were thinking about maybe getting involved in the women's game, but obviously since the Lionesses' amazing success over the Euros, I think that's definitely kind of catapulted that ambition, and a lot of local businesses has welcomed that opportunity to be involved in that, whether they are existing sponsors that come back for another shot, or whether they're new guys. We've done really well on that front. So all of that is really helpful. And it's been well documented. It's a shame that it hasn't come into our laps a lot earlier. But we'll take every little bit of help that we can get, and very much appreciated and needed, of course. So it's been very helpful.
And I know when Carl first took over, he said he got asked a lot about what all his targets were and what he hoped to achieve. Do you sort of set targets with the under-18s as well?
No, not really. Not really. I think for me, it's about making sure that we have the right environment in the 18s. It's a kind of a nurturing environment. We're not really about necessarily winning all of our matches. Of course, we want to win all of our matches, but it's really about kind of developing the girls as people. First and foremost, and then players too. And if we get that right, we're halfway there. So we probably got perhaps maybe a kind of a different sort of alignment there, but certainly that's what I'm really looking at. We're looking to kind of go into this JPL. Don't really know what to expect, but we do know that we've got Millwall and Fulham and Watford, Notts County, Notts Forest, Ipswich Town this weekend. So big brands that are coming to us, and it's just really amazing to be part of that. And certainly from my perspective, the days of going down the road to take on, Maidenhead and Twyford and Wargrave and what have you, to now kind of these fixtures that we're facing, it's the right move. It's right for these girls. These girls are ready for these challenges now, and we go to hit out on those every single Saturday, and really look to compete and take it to those teams, and hopefully pick up as many points along the way as we can. But really, it's about developing them as people, and so they can go back into society and be the best people they can be. And as coaches, that's our job too. So it's very very rewarding when you see that, and you see some of the girls that have challenges and they battle through those and they come out the other side, and that's what it's about. And if we have a bit of football success along the way, then that's even better.
And I imagine a really nice part of the role as well is sort of spotting potential and developing the players and thinking, they could go on to a higher level.
Yeah, and again, that's a good opportunity here. So going into the Junior Premier League, we have the opportunity where matches are recorded. We obviously are going to big franchises there. The Junior Premier League is linked to scholarships and what have you for stuff in the States. So it just goes hand in hand, and it isn't for all the players. It's there for some of the girls that are really keen on that, and we have quite a few that are. It's great giving the girls the opportunity that if they want to go and kick on into a bigger spotlight, being in this country or abroad, then this gives them that platform to go and do that as well. And we of course wouldn't stand in anyone's way that wanted to do that, but hopefully we can keep the girls together, hopefully we can fly the flag, and hopefully we can do the business and take them all the way. And in a few months' time we'll see how we go, and we can reflect back on hopefully what has been a hugely successful but ultimately a positive experience.
Let's switch our attention back to the men and find out what's kept Gareth Ainsworth at the club for 10 years.
Listen, there's obviously a proud moment for me, but the win on Saturday is very important, and I want to make sure that everyone's focused on that as well. Yeah, I'd say a combination of being very lucky, working hard, and having good people around me. I think that's what's kept me in this position. It is a hard job, but it's also a brilliant job. So anyone who moans and says, it's stressful, it's hard, it is, but we know that when we go into it, you can always leave if you want. So I'm a very lucky person, and I think that thinking that every day has probably helped keep me in the job, because there's a lot of people who'd want to do this job, and I'm the lucky one, and I'm surrounded by great people. Got a brilliant, receptive bunch of boys, and a very patient and supportive fan base and owner base, and that's really important for me. So combination of all those things. Definitely a little bit of luck at the start though, because I was no way ready, and we had a few nasty surprises in store in them first couple of years.
I'm sure you don't get much chance to reflect, but perhaps for the purposes of this you could. Just a bit about sort of what you've been through in terms of guiding the club so close to going out of business, to taking it to the Championship, to the Cougs taking over, to having your name on a bus, all sorts of things that have happened in those 10 years. Yeah, I'm not sure guiding the club to almost going out of business is a nice statement. No, sure, but I mean, so taking it through that and out the other side. It was. I was trying to guide it the other way, believe me. But lessons learned, and probably the best thing that happened to me, that season as a manager.
And I always go back to that Torquay day and say, your eureka moment. That was mine. That was the moment where I thought, right, Gareth, you can either stay here and pretend, or you can sort this out. And that was a big moment for me. And then, as you say, there's been all sorts. There's no highlights, because they're all highlights. Every day I come in is a highlight when I see the boys ready to train and ready to go. But the championship promotion was something very special. And yeah, it's been absolutely littered. I think there's been one, maybe 2 seasons where in 10 where there's been nothing to play for at the end. I think one was the first season, and we had one in the middle somewhere where we finished 13th, and Oxford got promoted at their home ground when we played them in the last game of the season. Apart from that, I think there's been something on every game at the end, and it's been absolute crackers, and a real roller coaster. And that's why we love the game, and that's why everyone comes to watch the game, and that's why we're so proud of our 92 pyramid, because teams like Wycombe Wanderers can make a difference, and we certainly have over the years.
And it's a great thing for both parties, both yourself and the club, that they've kind of stuck with you, if you like, and you've wanted to stay as well.
Yeah, both ways. In the early days, I don't think anyone wanted me, but the club stuck by me. And then, in the latter years, there's been rumours, there's been support from the board about, if opportunities come available, but nothing has been perfect for me to leave Wycombe Wanderers. I'm really, really happy here, and it's sometimes looking at what you've got rather than what you could have. I think not just in football, in life in general is very important, and I think I'll stick with that way of looking at things.
And great that you recently signed a new contract, sort of showing that there's so much more to do at the club as well.
There's so much more to do here. There's every club. More to do at some than others, and this club has definitely got potential to get even bigger, get even greater, and have even more fantastic history. The championship taste was fantastic. The new owners and the plans they've got going forward are just brilliant. And like I say, we've got this fan base that they could have gone elsewhere. They could have gone to Arsenal or QPR or Chelsea or anywhere they could have gone, because we're very local to London. So the fans that come to Wycombe, I really, really respect, because they've really supported their non-league club through the years, and then their league club, and they're very proud of them. And there's generations coming down. It's brilliant to see a new crop of youngsters coming through. But, back in the days of the 60s and 70s and 80s, which is where the support comes from, and beyond that, they could have gone to the Premier League, but they stuck with their local side, which I think is so big. And that's why I'm still sticking with Blackburn Rovers. That's my local boys, and they'll never lose my support. And I think it's really important that supporting your local clubs keeps them going. The razzmatazz of the Premier League's brilliant, but just think about your team making it there one day, and that's what I think keeps everything alive.
And great, the relationship that you've had with the fans, and I'm sure you sort of feel the backing as well. And great, as you've said before, to see more and more people with Wycombe shirts around the town as well, especially youngsters. Yeah,
it's been brilliant. 10 years ago, I think one of the big changes is that I walk around the town and nobody had blinked an eyelid. Now you walk around town and there is a buzz, and there's people stopping you talking about the football and Wycombe fans and Wycombe shirts in the town, and that's a real proud moment for me, because if anything, if it's affected just one person, it's been worth it. But I know it's affected a lot more than that.
And Saturday will be you talked about the history, 135th anniversary of the first game of the club as well. That must feel special for yourself, and also the players to be playing a part in that history too.
Yeah, absolutely, and what a place to go to play that game. Hillsborough, one of the most iconic stadiums in the country. We all remember watching the FA Cup semi-finals there, and big games and playoffs and everything. And obviously, the tragedy that happened, and it was it's just been part of the footballing history in this country like no other. So to go to such a stadium, for Wycombe Wanderers to be on the same platform as a team like Sheffield Wednesday is just immense for the 135th year. It's brilliant, and as I say, the fans have just been awesome. And I think there's a bit of respect between the two fans as well over the years. So that'd be nice. It'd be a nice moment, but. Sorry, Sheffield Wednesday fans, I'm definitely going for the win.